Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick and welcome back to another X-Wing Tournament's Top 16 breakdown. This time the World's Tournament for 2018, the last World's Tournament for X-Wing First Edition, so what we're talking about today might not be so relevant in a few months, but just in terms of tracking the meta and seeing what's going on, this is like a good time capsule to kind of discuss the last little bits and pieces of what's happening in First Edition, which will be useful moving into Second Edition because then we're going to see what major changes happens to the meta in regards to the last major tournament that happened. Now before I start, I just want to make a few quick shout outs. First to the Gold Squadron podcast. These guys are a podcast based in America, talk all things X-Wing, and they cover a lot of the major tournaments around the world, specifically the World's Tournament at FFG's headquarters. And this year they held what was called the inaugural Goldies Awards, and the Goldies are like I guess their version of the Oscars. But they give out these awards to personalities in the X-Wing community. Now, unfortunately, I didn't win, but congratulations to First Earth for picking that up, and commiserations to my fellow Australians in Onyx Squadron and a hell of a pilot. Didn't quite get there this time, lads, but next year we got it in the bag. And I also want to give a quick shout out to all my followers on Facebook because it took a bit of time for the details of this top 16 to filter through the list juggler. For whatever reason, it took over a week for these details to get through. I just want to reiterate to FFG, please guys, put these details up on your website. We love seeing this kind of stuff. I don't know why this information isn't officially available, but thanks to the community, it does make its way onto List Juggler. And after I sent a request out to you guys on my Facebook page, you guys were really helpful, just responding, oh, you should ask this person, maybe get in contact with Gold Squadron. But in particular, Marcus Thielsch, or Thielsch, I'm sorry, I'm sure I'm butchering your last name, but thank you so much, dude. You got in contact with me via private message and gave me so much information. It seems every time I talk about a major tournament, there's always a few of you guys that were like, oh, I went to that. This is what happened. It was awesome. And I just really like that I have this community that is able to help me so much and have these discussions and just offer so much information. It's one of the coolest things about having this channel. So let's get on to some of the stats. Here we have the faction breakdown. Just one lowly little scum list. 4 Imperial and 11 Rebel lists. I will say though, the Scum list did win, but overall what we are seeing is, yes, a lot of these Rebel good stuff lists. Just a lot of great things the faction have currently, which we'll talk about in a second when we get to the lists. The ship sizes where we had 37 small ships and 10 large ships. 2 squads of 2 ships, 13 squads of 3 ships, and a single squad of 4 ships. And in terms of what was flown, yes, it is absolutely a sea of red here. The Sheathipede class shuttle, by a long stretch, was the most popular at a total of 9. Lots of Ezras, lots of Fens. Then we had the Azatuk gunship, all Lorix with a 6 of, 4 Mirandas in the K-Wing, 3 Lambda class shuttles, all Palpaces as you might have assumed, 3 TIE SFs, all quick draw, 3 TIE advanced prototypes, all the Inquisitor, 3 T-70 X-Wings, VCX 100s and attack shuttles, 2 aggressors, which of course makes up that robot list that won, an E-Wing, a Resistance bomber, a Skirg bomber, a TIE Defender, TIE Advanced, Alpha Class Starwing, YT-2400, and a single TIE Fighter on the Rebel faction. So let's bring up all this Rebel stuff and go through this first. First of all, a couple of major archetypes. Fen, Ghost, still very prominent. A fair amount of flexibility we're seeing here on top of the raw frame of the list, but that core of the list is still there. A Ghost with a Zeb Aurelius to allow the double tapping of TLT, and a Fen Rao with Hotshot Copilot to give that layer of control. It just has such great damage output and such great control. It usually wins most damage races. A few little variations. The bottom list here used Kanan Jarrus with Ray and Tactician. That's a nice little variation. The Kanan Jarrus is kind of the older version of this list. And the other 2 used Lothal Rebel with Ezra and Maul. Also the top list here used R3A2 on Fen Rao. That's a bit different than what we usually see. Usually seeing Flight Assist Astromech, but all of these little details are basically just flavouring to taste. The core of the list with the Ghost, TLT, Zeb, and Fen Rao with Hotshot Copilot is there. And that's really where all the power of this list lies. I don't see this doing particularly well in X-Wing 2nd Edition because the Ghost doesn't function the same way as it does in 1st Edition. It can't take 2 TLT shots. Indeed, TLT won't even exist in 2nd Edition, so this is going to be very different in a few months' time. But in the meantime, guys, if you're interested in this, absolutely give it a go because it is stupid powerful. We also had a lot of Rebel 3 of lists. This was a very popular list back in the day when Biggs was unnerfed, and he was able to use his ability several times throughout the game. And now it still exists with Lorik and Miranda, but as you can see, people are taking different pilots to go along with them. Sheathapede class shuttle, or even Jess Parver in the T-70 X-Wing. It's all just really good stuff, and it just further highlights what I'm talking about. The Rebel faction just has so many good, powerful options that you can take these raw frame concepts and just flavour to taste. I particularly like the Fen Rao variation on this. I like the level of control he offers alongside Lorik. It just seems really, really efficient and really plays into what this list is trying to do. And in another slight variation on that archetype, we had Fen Rao, Lorik, and Corran Horn, flown by Nathan Ide. If you guys aren't familiar with Nathan, he's basically the Corran Horn aficionado in the X-Wing world. Corran had push the limits fire control systems, R2 and engine upgrades, Fen adaptability chopper and flight assist astromech, and Lorik with adaptability ray and courier droid. Fen Rao does not have hotshot co-pilot here, but I don't think that's super imperative in what this list is trying to do. Fen Rao's ability is still very relevant along Lorik. They can fly alongside each other, and Corran Horn can just go off and do the thing he always does. They're very, very cool ace, and particularly something that's worth looking at in 2nd edition, because the E-Wing is getting a massive upgrade. We have another list here with a Sheathapede and Lorik. This was the only 4-of list of the day. Also included Captain Rex and Jess Parver. Lorik has Draw Their Fire Ray Tactician. Captain Rex has no upgrades. Ezra Bridger has Snapshot, Operations Specialist, and R3A2, and Jess Parver has Prime Thrusters, M9G8 Integrated Astromech. Just good, solid cards for these ships. Obviously, Draw Their Fire works fantastically with Lorik, and that Ezra Stress build and that Captain Rex build both offer pretty efficient control for their points value. Again, just a bunch of good stuff on the Rebel faction, flying together well. Not too surprising to see. Interestingly also, we only had one real bomber list. We didn't have any Nimbarandas in this top 16, which is quite interesting to see. Again, Ezra Bridger with that stress control build, but instead he has Sabine Wren in the crew slot, and this is to power up the bombs on the other two guys in Crimson Squadron Pilot with Trajectory Simulator, Ordnance Silos, Thermal Detonators and Deflective Plating, and Captain Nim, VI, Auto Blasters, Extra Munitions, Harpoon Missiles, Bomblet Generator, Havoc Genius, and Guidance Chips. A lot of cool, really efficient bombing. We also have the Harpoon Missiles in there, always a good include. Just one of those cards that's always solid, doesn't really need the build around. And the Rebel Nim is able to hold bombs in situ, really powerful alongside the Thermal Detonators and Ordnance Silos on the Crimson Squadron Pilot. Really get some good, efficient bombing out of those, and Sabine Wren means the extra damage. Just good stuff all around. I really like this bombing list with the Skirk Bomber, Sheathapede, and BSF-17 Bomber. I think it's a really, really good archetype, and probably one we're going to see a bit more of before 2nd edition hits. And last but not least, we did have one copy of Dash and Poe. Dash has the Lone Wolf variant with Heavy Laser Cannon, Ray, Smuggling Compartment, Burnout Slam, and countermeasures. And Poe has VI, R2, Advanced Optics, Auto Thrusters, and Black 1. Just a really good, powerful Poe build. There's nothing really synergistic on here apart from Advanced Optics. I just get the impression ever since Advanced Optics dropped in Wave 13, he's just become this really solid, viable option. VI is so he can still contend with things like Fen Rao, and absolutely fly after any other ace that happens to be flying against him. And Lone Wolf Dash is Lone Wolf Dash, just a really good, solid pilot, a really good, solid build, and something I'm keen to keep an eye on moving into 2nd edition. We don't have Dash Rendar revealed yet, so it'll be interesting to see the evolution of that particular card. Alright, let's move over to the Empire lists. We have sort of a quasi-Alpha Strike, quasi-Ace build here with Vader, Quickdraw, and Rogue Squadron Veteran. I quite look at this actually. Vader has VI, Cruise Missiles, Guidance Chips, TIE X1, Advanced Targeting Computer, Nasty, Nasty, Nasty. Quickdraw has VI, Fire Control Systems, Harpoon Missiles, Advanced Optics, Lightweight Frame, and Special Ops Training. And the Rogue Squadron Pilot has Deadeye, Harpoon Missiles, and Long Range Scanners. The Rogue Squadron Pilot, yes, obviously just a good, efficient Alpha Striker, not much to say there. But I like this Vader alongside this Quickdraw, both with VI as well, because these are both ships that sit nicely with VI, and having both of them at PS11 just feels really good. The Cruise Missiles and Harpoon Missiles means you still get a great Alpha Strike with these guys, and in the late game you get aces. Perfect. I really like the thinking here. We also had a few Palp Aces build. This one here is flown with the Inquisitor and Countess Ride, probably the most interesting Palp Aces we had. The Inquisitor has Push the Limits, Auto Thrusters, and TIE V1, and Ride has Lone Wolf, Twin Iron Engine Mark II, and TIE X7. Bit of a variation on the Countess Ride we're used to seeing. Usually she takes Push the Limits, but Lone Wolf is good here, and by taking that, we're able to get a 2-point bid, which is very important with the Inquisitor. And apart from that, we had a couple of variations on Quick Draw Inquisitor power bases. This one here took Expertise, Fire Control System, Lightweight Frame, and Spec Op trainings on Quick Draw. Your has Collision Detector and Palp, and the Inquisitor has Push Limits and Auto Thrusters and TIE V1. And if we move over to this list here, which is the runner-up, only Quick Draw has changed with Veteran Instincts and Advanced Optic. I look at these two different builds and I think, well, it really comes down to how you like to fly. I like VI on Quick Draw. I think in the current meta, especially with the Fen Ghostless running around, having the PS9 Quick Draw is very, very relevant. And being able to squeeze in Advanced Optics is nice too. It also means we get an Initiative bid, which is quite nice. Again, our ships are at PS11 and 8, so the Initiative bid is going to be very, very much worth it. But let's move over to the star of the day, the 2018 World Champion, Simeon Delapina. This is Brobots. I gotta say, I was not expecting this, guys. Brobots is good. It's always been a good list, but in terms of what it does in the meta, it's what we would generally describe as wholesome. And this is a word being bandied around. A lot of people are happy to see this take Worlds, because when we talk about wholesome lists, basically what we mean is everything is on the table, everything is running at a fair amount of efficiency. Sure, it's powerful, but there's no dumb combo with the upgrades or the pilot abilities, which just pumps out so much efficiency, it's not fair. You know, it's not so efficient, it's what we would call degenerative. And I really, really like. I like the inclusion of Ion Cannon with the double tapping IG-88B. My philosophy was always taking Mangler Cannons or HLCs. But at this reduced cost, you can take Ion Cannon and it's still pretty good and offers you a decent amount of control. And especially nowadays, there are a lot of ships running around with low agility. It's going to get through quite a lot, and that ion control is going to be worth it in a lot of games. And Push Limits Advanced Sensors, I love this combo on Brobots. It's my preferred way of flying them. We sometimes see variation with Crackshot and Fire Control System, but I think Push the Limits and Advanced Sensors is just way too much fun. You can do the double stacking of tokens, take a focus and evade. You can even combo that with IG-88C's boost, so you can do that boost and a focus action. Take the stress, then do a green maneuver and clear the stress. So you're left with 2 tokens, no stress, and some interesting repositioning potential. Really, really cool concept, really, really powerful. And I'm really, really happy to see this take the last Worlds. It's just a nice way to cap off the first edition World Tournaments. Be really cool to see how these guys go in second edition. I really like the design space used in second edition, specifically with calculation. IG-88A in particular looks like a really interesting card. And the future of Brobots and this build in particular is very much up in the air because there is no push the limits in second edition. And indeed, there is no way to link actions at all. Apart from IG-88C's boost of evade, you can't take multiple actions on any of these guys. So the raw concept is going to have to change in a few months if these guys are going to move forward and still be a force to be reckoned with. I think they still will. It's just going to look different to how it does now. And that's the top 16 from the 2018 World. Thank you so much again for everyone that helped me get the data for this. If you want to see any of these games, jump over to FFG's Twitch channel. In the meantime, guys, like and subscribe, like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter, and I will catch you guys later.